Well, we'll come back to these gardening announcements and updates here soon. It sounds like for Robin and for Val, they'll be selectively picking at the supermarket, right? And
Yeah,
pretending that they're harvesting, right? As
it
you go through as you go through there.
really irritates me too.
I
Yeah.
hear you. I hear you. It's almost shameful as a master gardener, right, to have to admit that. But hey,
Go
anyway,
to, yeah,
welcome
go
back,
to,
everybody. We've
you should go to the farmer's market and support your local farmers if
There you
you
go.
are.
There's a
Yeah.
great reminder there. Okay, so we've got a lot going on today, so let's just jump in. We've got all of our regular business stuff to come on, and then Maya and Lee will be joining us with some very important updates about an organization I was clueless about, by the way, that covers both counties and is of great concern to all of us. So it's a lot going on today. Looking forward to it. Okay, so jumping into things. Reminder that today, July 14th, Bastille Day, right? We have a board meeting at 1 o'clock, 1 p.m., the same URL as you joined here, same URL. Wednesday work parties at Owaco, Thursday work parties at Elma, plant clinic last Saturday. And then, of course, everybody's gearing up for the Grace Harbor County Fair. We'll talk about announcements and so forth coming forward on that. But of course, the big news this week is our garden tour coming up this Saturday. This Saturday. So, Terry, I want to turn it over to you for last minute announcements, updates, preparations, needs, etc. Please share.
We have had great response from our volunteers to be docents for the tour, which is always a concern when we have 7 gardens. We still could use a few more, especially in the afternoon. So if your plants have cleared up and you can come help at the garden tour, we would greatly appreciate it. Everyone who helps, whether it's the plant sale or as a docent or in some of the other important jobs that happen in organizing the garden tour, you will get a free ticket. And your garden representatives have your free tickets to give you when you do your garden walkthroughs. Or if you can't do that, you can make arrangements to pick them up early on Saturday morning. I'm losing track. Anyway, I saw the first plants arrive yesterday at Dig. Um, they look a little lonely, so hopefully there will be a bunch of others that follow. I know I intend to take mine out there tomorrow morning. And I think from what I've heard, it's going to be a wonderful selection of plants again. On the tour, the 7 gardens are really unique and different in terms of styles, sizes, and their shall we say their design. So I think that it's going to be a very interesting tour. I'm a little concerned because ticket sales are flagging, but sometimes that's the case. And I think in Ocean Shores, a lot of people will wait for the day of the tour, maybe to buy tickets at the plant sale and at the gardens, where we will have some tickets for sale in every garden, and then also at the plant sale. Anyway, I'm excited. The weather is supposed to be good. We're supposed to have a little rain on Thursday and a tiny bit of rain on Friday, but then clear again on Saturday. So anyway, I think it's going to be a wonderful tour. Got it? Questions, anyone?
Terry, can you remind us of the address for DigiShores?
Let me open my book. When you get your ticket, it's got all the addresses and it's got a map. Dig is 557 Point Brown Avenue Northwest. So the main street you drive into Ocean Shores on is Point Brown Avenue. And you just stay on that. You go around the traffic circle and take the second right turn. And it's not too far beyond there. It's when you see the library, it's just the next drive past the library. And there will be signs galore. There are already signs galore there. So there will be even more.
Other questions? Other questions preparing for Saturday?
Can I say one more thing about the plant sale?
Please.
Um, what was pointed out to me yesterday, uh, by gardeners I talked to, who were bringing their plants, who happened to be in Grayland, from Grayland, um, the the ground, the what looks like grass actually has this weed in it that's kind of thorny. You don't see it. It's tiny little thorns. And my grandkids kind of ran into this at my brother's place over the 4th of July weekend. And so I would recommend, if you're working at the plant sale or spending any time there, um, I would recommend you wear shoes, not open sandals. So that was just something that I wasn't thinking of until yesterday when our Grayland volunteers noticed that.
Smart preparations for everyone. Wear shoes. For
Question.
sure.
The combination to get into Dickett Shores to deliver the plants, or will someone be there all day?
1973.
1973. Thank you.
It's the year WSU started Master Gardeners. That's how, if you know that date, that's what it is.
It's the year before I got married. That's how I remember.
I would like to just add to that. Yesterday when I was there, somebody had not spun the dial. So the combination, when they opened the gate, was still on it. They closed it, but it didn't latch, so it was unlocked. Just make sure for the combo lock, it's, rolling numbers, that you mess it up so that it doesn't show the code for everybody else to see when they walk up. Just a reminder.
Good point.
So for all of us here in Pacific County, I'm doing a plant roundup, right? I've got stops at Jan's and then at Brenda Priestley as we move up to the north on Friday afternoon. So I'll have a trailer. We'll just be loading them up as we move up north. Other questions, comments, and preparations for Saturday? It's a big day. As we've noted, this is our most profitable fundraising event, right? Because of the cost are in our labor, as opposed to actual material expenses. So it's very important we make the most of this.
Well, that's kind of true. Actually, the Home and Garden Show makes more money.
But not the most profit. You're right.
Yeah. Profit's pretty good on the Home and Garden Show. Profit is good because of the plant sale on the garden tour. That's right. But the profit on the Home and Garden Show is actually going to be over 20,000 profit.
Yep. Marilyn, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that if for some reason something is forgotten Friday when you're making it up there, I'll be coming up Saturday morning, and then I'm gonna stop to get some cookies for the bake sale in, I guess, Aberdeen. So if anybody has last minute things, I won't be there till 1 or so, but if there's something needed that wasn't there in the morning, just text or call me or let me know, and I'm happy to pick it up along the way.
It's a good reminder about cookies.
There's a bake sale?
No, we offer water and cookies at the plant sale.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't question that. Just cookies was told.
Yeah. The bake sale was new. Okay.
Terry, I sent you a message in chat. Can you take a look at it?
Okay. So is it something Terry needs to respond to right now, Wendy, or just can I go move on?
Oh, you can move on.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll send Bridget the phone number she needs.
Very good. Okay, also in July, of course, the Grace Harbor County Fair is also this month. So everything's a little earlier than usual, right? Kind of a week earlier than we would normally expect it. So as you saw in the e-news, that Cindy's looking for volunteers for the Grace Harbor County Fair. And the Pacific County Fair, Wendy has already put those items into Give Pulse. So it's time to start thinking about our August events, right, that are coming up upon us very quickly. It's a busy time of year for all of us, right? But it's indeed a great opportunity to engage. And we still have opportunities. Recall, we've kept the enrollment for next year's class open until the end of August. So people that we see at the garden tour, people that we see at the fairs, we welcome them to join the master gardeners, and that opening opportunity will continue through August. Okay.
Kelly, do we have a few minutes for me to give Pulse to show people how to sign up for the fair?
We do, and I'll be at. Let's wait till the announcement's coming up in this thing.
Okay.
We'll come back to that. Okay, reminder of who we are. We meet here today, as master gardeners, within as all subscribing to WSU's extension program, and the ethics and the research-based activities and advice that we provide to all of our clients and the public, without charge and without discrimination. The foundation, of course, right, is a nonprofit 501c3 wholly in support of the program. And this is where our fundraising events are so crucial to helping support the program. We are one of the few counties right across the state that have the majority of responsibility for supporting the program. Okay, so our board will meet today at 1 o'clock. Mike has distributed the agenda for that, and everyone is welcome to join at our 1 p.m. time. Okay, so Jennifer, of course, is our state director. Aaron leads our program coordination efforts, and Wendy as her dutiful program assistant. We've got to get you a better title, Wendy. That's just so lame given all the work that you do. Of course. Aaron, you got to get onto that, right? Okay, so again, just as we've been saying all along here, is we are a service organization, so it's imperative that all of us be stepping up to volunteer. And that volunteering activity, just as we were indicating earlier, can be as simple as baking cookies, right? Can be as simple as contributing time as a docent. And mind you, being a docent is a fun thing, right? Seeing all these people marvel at the gardens they're going to be experiencing on this Saturday. So these are not heavy lifts in terms of service responsibilities, and it's a great opportunity for us to get those hours in and those opportunities slacked out. Okay, so for our Tapio moment, I'm going all the way back to July of 2010. So Don wrote on July 10th in his newspaper chronicles. He talked about how much to water during the summer, right? And it's a very interesting article, by the way. And for those of you who have the book, right, and reminder, we're talking about more than a green thumb. For those of you who have the book, check it out on pages 51 and 52. It's imperative that we ourselves and that we remind all the folks we engage with, do not water frequently and do not sprinkle and just shallow watering. Hosing down, right, is not the proper way. Water during early morning. I think we know all of that. Apply water at the same rate the soil can absorb it. That's an interesting way to phrase it. The same rate the soil can absorb it. And if you're fertilizing, right, water in that fertilizer. Water in that fertilizer. Not the least, of course, to make that fertilizer effective and to allow the plants to pick it up, but also to ensure that birds and other folks browsing around, rabbits and so forth, don't mistake the fertilizer nuggets for food. Now, here's some interesting stats that Don adds to the article. Dry sand, for those of us here at Ocean Shores and in Ocean Park and on the peninsula here, 3/4 of water on dry sand will penetrate to a depth of 1 foot. If you've got good loam, those of you up the Satsat Valley, 1.5 inches of water are necessary to get all the way down to that 1 foot root level. And for those of you like Sharon, of course, sitting across that clay hill in South Bend, 2.5 inches of water. So yeah, and of course you pay high water bills anyway, Sharon. So we feel for you, right? So soak the area deeply. Do not rewater until necessary. So Don's advocacy is definitely hold off on watering, and makes the note that mild drying stress is actually helpful to triggering bud set on flowering plants. Any other comments? Any other comments on this, on watering techniques in particular? I see Holly's checking the book. Sure, she's checking to make sure.
One thing I found that was really helpful after a podcast interview with Lisa Taylor, she's been in the AEC several times. But she strongly recommends moisture meters. They're about $10 on Amazon, and you just stick it in the soil to where the roots are for your plant, and it tells you exactly how much moisture there is where your roots are. So you know whether you need to water.
Good tip. Terry, you have your hand up. You're on mute.
I like to keep buckets around in my garden. So when I see a stressed plant, I just dump a bucket of water on it rather than dragging a hose somewhere. And I find that really helps. Like I have some patches of phlox, big patches of phlox that are in dry areas. When they start to kind of wilt, I dump a bucket of water on it, and they rebound. And then I don't have to pay attention to them for a week or more.
Hopefully at the same rate, when you're dumping that bucket, hopefully you're dumping it at the same rate that soil can absorb it, right?
Yeah, I do. It's not usually an issue. It usually soaks right in.
That's right. There you go. And of course, that's a very good point, because obviously this time of year, many soils can become hydrophobic, right? And will actually repel the water. And I find this just a fascinating subject, right? In terms of the electrons repel the H2O coming down there.
Well, that's the advantage of dumping a bucket on it. If you dump into the crown, then generally it will absorb pretty well.
Okay, so Terry Small and her bucket watering techniques. There you go. Okay, other July to-dos, right? It is time to start thinking about late summer plantings for fall harvest. And this is often difficult for us to think about planting now. Although it sounds like, Val, you're already onto the way, right? You're very hopeful, right? Let's go ahead and plant my tomatoes now, and let's hope for the best, right?
I just put in another batch of carrots. So I'm very hopeful. I love my carrots.
Look at that optimist. Val is very optimistic here. Okay, but obviously, look at all the vegetables that actually are suggested to be reseeded for fall harvest, right? So there's still an opportunity, Robin. Still an opportunity to get out there and plant some stuff. It's also time to think about spring bulbs and digging those up. And this can also be tedious, right? When we start thinking about it. But this is the time at which everything from your glads to your dahlias to your irises, right? Time to dig those things up. Change it out, right? Get into your garden and get the shovel out. Okay? And then again, watering techniques. This all shows. This is also echoes what Don is saying. Water in the early morning, water the soil rather than the leaves, right? To make sure that we're reducing fungus risk. Hanging baskets, obviously, and containers need more water than soil. Lawn clippings, and this of course comes up every year, right? Do not compost if they've been treated with chemicals, right? You don't want them in your compost bin. And don't compost diseased plants unless you're ensuring that your compost pile is toasty. Okay. Tomatoes, monitoring for blight. How are tomatoes going for everybody, by the way, just in general, right? Are we having successful tomatoes other than Robin and Val?
Mine are going well, but they've been in a greenhouse the entire time. And I planted Oregon Spring, which is a relatively new variety from the territorial seeds. And I've been really happy with that. So I've got lots of little green tomatoes and a couple that are orange and almost ready. And they're slicers.
Rita, Marilyn, you want to comment upon the tomato harvest coming in the Long Beach greenhouse?
Well, we've already picked 2 pounds of tomatoes, and Rachel donated those to the food bank. There's probably 3 pounds now that need to be picked, and there are tons coming.
Right.
So they like the toasty 90-degree plus temperatures in that greenhouse for sure.
Yes, they do.
And of course, we haven't had to rent a crane yet to reach those the tall ones yet, but we're getting close, right?
Yeah, they're reaching for the top of the greenhouse.
So unfortunately, at the Pacific County Fair, there's not a prize for the tallest tomato plant. Okay, other fruit trees, time to spray as necessary. Blueberries, applying netting, right? Rhodies, look for fresh evidence of root weevil feeding, and those, of course, be the notching going on. Spider mites, dusty looking foliage, gloss of color, tiny mites. By the way, it was interesting at the Owalco Demo Garden, we saw an aphid infestation on the Gary oak, on the white oak, Quercus garryanus. And it was interesting watching all the parasitic wasp going after those aphids, as well as a whole bunch of ladybugs going after it. So it's kind of fun. You have a whole, miniature ecosystem going on just with one plant, and it shows how nature actually evolves, right, to manage a lot of pests on its own. Okay, potatoes, mounding, rhubarb and asparagus, weed and fertilize, mulching. Mulching, obviously, a huge opportunity and a great way to conserve moisture and to build up your soil. And of course, soil testing. This is actually an interesting time to think about soil testing relative to all the leaching of nutrients that's happening because of our watering and because of the summer series. So it's a great time to be thinking about all these programs. Any other tips for July? Any other tips that we all should be aware of that we're advising the public on as we think about July? Okay. Hey, Wendy, I can turn it over to you if you want to screen share and go online. Is that what you want? Is that what you'd like to do?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm going to stop my share here, and you are in control.
Okay, so you should be able to, when you go into Give Pulse, you'd be on this page. If not, on your dashboard, it'll say groups, and you can go to groups, and you'll end up on this page. So anytime you want to add impacts or anything, you want to make sure it's WSU, Grace Harbor, Pacific County. You'll see Aaron's name, my name. If you don't see those, you're on the wrong page. So contact us if you have problems. So I really wanted to show you, you can sign up for the opportunities. There's a list here. You can go through the list, or you can go onto the calendar and sign up. And I really wanted to show August so that you can see here is the count. It's all in blue for me right now because I haven't registered for anything. But if you click on any of these, it will, and you go to register. So anything here, it'll bring up it should bring up everything. So every shift, every day of the fair of what you want to sign up. It'll say morning shift, afternoon, evening shift, and it is for every day. So if you don't see the date, you just put more, show more, and it shows every single day. So if you wanted to, let's say, go Friday from 2 to 6, you would click on that. If you wanted to also do on the 20th, you can click on that. You can click as many as you want or as few as you want, and then you would go to next, and then you agree to the liability. And Mike, I'm going to delete these because I'm not going to register for that later. I just wanted to show people. And then it shows that you're registered. And then it's as easy as that. So that's all I wanted to show. And then you will get anytime you will get a reminder the day before, probably the week before, but for sure the day before. And then after you have served your time, I did not tag these this time because we do have the children's booth and the plant clinic. So if you serve these hours that you put in, once you go in, it says, did you serve this? And you say, yes, you go in, it takes you into Give Pulse. It'll give the hours, which you can change. So if you serve more hours or less, you can change the hours, but you'll also have to put in the category. So if you served in the plant clinic, you would put plant clinic. If you served in the children's booth, and then you would put youth outreach. So it is not tagged like the garden tour is tagged to be a docent. whereas these are not tagged because there's two different things. Any questions?
So again, this is once you register, Wendy, right? It assumes that you're participating, right? So
Yes.
if it just and there's nothing more that needs to be done.
No, you will receive an email saying that you're registered. And like I know that Marilyn and I think it might be Rita, I'm not quite sure. Two people have already registered. So you received an email saying you registered, and then the day before you will get the message that reminding you that you have what you're doing, what you're volunteering. And this is the case for anything on Give Pulse. So for example, for today's meeting, you could have registered for today's meeting. It would have given you a notice, and then afterwards you can, that's already tagged as continuing education. But again, the fair isn't because there's two different categories.
So I have a question.
Okay.
So then after you register and you've done it, does it automatically record it and give Pulse for your time?
Yeah, what it does is it will be in Give Pulse, but then after you serve it, say the day after you serve that, you will receive an email saying, did you serve it? And then you say yes. It'll take you to the page where you have to update your hours and what category.
Oh, okay. So you already said that. Okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
All right.
So that means that there'd be an opportunity, Wendy, in that case, right? Upon that response email for you to amend those hours if you spent longer or shorter, right?
Yes. You can, even with the garden tour, anything that you do in Give Pulse, you can change the time. You can't necessarily change the tag. If I have tagged it like today's meeting is continuing education, if you wanted to do it as program support, you can't change it. Whereas I didn't tag the fair. There's a couple other things. And then open events are not tagged, of course, because I don't know when you're serving those. So you have to put in the category for those. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody.
Wendy, we really appreciate the work you're putting in to actually get all this pulled together. Terry, you have your hand up.
I have a question for Wendy.
Okay.
So on these docent meetings that we're having in advance of the garden tour,
yes,
in the specific gardens, what do we record the time as? Because in the case of the garden I'm in, we're going to be doing a lot of conversation about plant identification. Mm-hmm. So is it program support or is it something else?
It is program support. Well, if you have a tour, like I had a tour of the Hogan Garden, we're teaching our docents what plants are there, so they can actually put that in as continuing ed because they are learning about different plants. But if you're actually like going and helping with anything else or like going to the reception, things like that, everything else is program support. And then docent is other educational delivery, which I have tagged.
Okay. So tomorrow when I do my walkthrough, we are going to be talking about plants, identifying plants and talking about mainly plants. So it will be continuing education?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Erin disagrees with me. I've always put it as yes, because you're teaching them. You're teaching people. So
yes,
master gardeners.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Cookie tasting, though, does count as program support, correct?
I'm sorry, say that again, Kelly.
Cookie tasting.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Just checking, that's for sure. Other questions on this? This is obviously it's a huge help, Wendy, right? You're prepping of this, but it reminds us all to get these hours in, right? Yeah. And if indeed you're old school and you just want to plow through it on your own, right? Dive into that volunteer portal.
Yes, for sure.
There you go. How are we doing overall in recording hours? Any comments, Wendy? And just
the Great Harbor Fair is not in Give Pulse. Cindy has chosen not to put it in there. So those hours you will have to go in and put them as an open event. So if you go looking for the Grace Harbor Fair, you will not see it on Give Pulse.
Okay. Hey, we welcome you all here at Pacific County, by the way. It's a fun fair.
It is fun. Except Mike, I'm not doing 6 to 9. I'll change my times.
If it's not on Give Pulse, do we have to call up Cindy and reserve a time to volunteer then?
You do need to email her, yes.
Okay, thanks.
And again, check out her article in the e-news, right? That specifies exactly that. Reach out to Cindy.
Yeah. Thanks,
Aaron, I wanted to give you time to talk about Green School. Any other thoughts and preparations? How are we doing and sign up for next year's team?
We have 8 or 9 applicants so far. There's another 5. There's like an anomaly in the application that I've got to try to figure out. So I've contacted those people who didn't finish the application but did like most of it, just to make sure whether or not whether it was intentional or not. So we may actually have closer to 15, depending on how that goes. So like you mentioned, application period is open through August 30th. And so Wendy and I are going to start reviewing applications probably tomorrow, and start planning interviews for those applicants.
Very good.
And we will be contacting people about teaching classes and stuff too, being mentors. So be mindful of that.
Other announcements, other questions, other announcements, notes.
I've got a bunch of stuff, but if anybody has something quick.
Aaron, jump on.
Okay. Well, the first announcement is that we have managers for Dig It Shores. Janice Williams and Cindy Crosby have volunteered to be co-managers. And I know they're gonna jump in with both feet and do a great job. And they're both already working really hard on the plant sale. So we're looking forward to working with them. I actually just got a text from Dan. He's recovering well. He's able to move his neck with no pain. He only needed 1 disc replaced, which is good. So it's a lot faster recovery time. And he hopes to be able to at least visit the Grays Harbor County Fair if he's feeling up to it. So if you're working the fair, you might get to see him.
And perhaps even send a note to the office, if you will, a get well card or something. Sure.
Sure. And then there was one thing I wrote in the e-news was about certain fact sheets and plant care guides needing peer review. And there was some confusion or misunderstanding. That peer review does not apply to writing articles. So if you're writing articles for different publications around our 2 counties, you do not need peer review for that. That is just our standard. You use research-based sources, preferably WSU, and cite those sources when appropriate. For a newspaper article, you aren't necessarily going to cite your sources, but you do not need peer review for just a simple article. Let's see. Seed saving. I'm looking for someone to help out with a seed saving presentation at the Still Life Barn during the Grays Harbor County Fair. This would be for 4-H, so the youth outreach. I think Michaela O'Brien has she's agreed to participate, but she's doesn't feel like she's able to actually plan the event. So if someone else wants to help out and work with her, email me. Let's see what's next. Regionalization. So the Southwest Regional Director position, the application window has closed, so they are processing applicants and will begin doing interviews pretty soon. But I just want to reiterate that this position has no direct impact or oversight on our program. Jennifer Markey is the program director of the Master Gardeners. And so all of those program coordinators will report directly to her. Except me, I report to her, and I report to Dan directly, but and she is also there for guidance and support. And if anything, this could be beneficial because that new director, part of their job is to engage the Pacific County commissioners and commissioners in other counties to secure or maintain or secure support for our programs. Let's see what else. So another thing I've been kind of hearing about some concerns about hours or volunteer standing, depending on what county you're in. And so I just kind of want to reiterate that Grace Harbor and Pacific County are one program. When we report our impacts to WSU, we do not separate them out. We are reporting as one program. And so any questions about volunteer status or providing accommodations for clients or how your hours count, contact me directly and I can address any of those concerns one-on-one. Told you I had a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to put a link in the chat. There was a training that took place a couple of months ago. It was called Right Message, Right Place. And it was Jennifer Marquis and two volunteers, one who does the state social media, and one who does is working through their website about how to frame foundation activities versus program activities depending on where those messages are housed. So, and it's a really good training, and it really helps kind of clarify even more the difference between program and foundation. So like on our county program website, if we're talking about the home and garden show or the plant sale, or the garden tour, I mean, instead of having its own dedicated page on the program, we would link to the foundation's website because that is a foundation activity. So I encourage you to watch the training. It qualifies for continuing education hours, but I found it really helped kind of clarify a lot of that messaging. So we will probably start making, now that we have, oh, that's the other thing I was going to mention too, is I now have access to the Pacific County Extension website. So they're doing the upgrade to the new template. And once that's done, I can start updating the Pacific County website. So that way we have, I've already gone in and I just did the basics of the training for this year. But I kind of needed it. I had to specially request access because I didn't want to have to refer people in Pacific County to Grace Harbor County because that's just too confusing. And so now I can manage both websites and be able to direct applicants or potential volunteers to the correct website for the information they need.
And again, you're referring to the official WSU websites, obviously.
Yes.
Obviously, our pnwmg.org website covers both counties, the whole program.
Right. Yeah. So, and that's because we have, two completely separate county offices and everything. It was kind of, yeah, it was, I don't know why it just occurred to me that was a really good way to, be able to connect with Pacific County. So eventually all the program materials will be on the county websites. We can really build out those county websites and provide a lot of information, and they will be the program's primary websites. So anything eventually what's on the foundation website related to outreach activities would be linked to the county websites, and also vice versa. So all the foundation activities would be linked to from the program websites. And then let's see, lastly, so outreach and clinic forms. I mentioned this in the e-news too. Anytime you organize or managing an outreach event or a clinic event, you need to submit an outreach form that tells how many people you made contact with, what program priorities were talked about, and So that's the information that we use to demonstrate our impact to WSU and the work that we do. So if you need a copy of the form, it is on the volunteer portal, but I can also send it to you directly if you have trouble finding it there. And I'm missing some of forms from earlier in the year. So if you know you haven't sent them in, please send them to me or Wendy. And I will, if I don't, I'll be contacting individuals who I should have had them from to see what's up there. So if you get an email from me about that, hopefully you still have those forms or you can recreate them so that we can tell our story and be able to demonstrate the impact that we have in our counties. And I think that's it. It's funny.
Sure. Glad you're taking the summer off, Aaron. Glad you're kind of relaxing, taking an easy time on. Other updates, questions, comments for the good of the order here. Lots going on. And again, I put in the chat the e-news that was emailed out on, last Friday by Katie. But there's a lot going on. So please be sure to read it and reference it because there's a lot going on. And Aaron's link is also in the chat. Okay. Well, with that, no further ado, I want to introduce Maya and Lee. And I'm especially excited, guys, in terms of this presentation. I'm going to stop sharing now and let you guys go off and introduce yourselves and your program, because it's very clear that what you all are doing is incredibly important. So thank you for joining us here today and picking up on us with what you've got to share.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you, everyone, for giving us a few minutes to talk about what we're doing. I'm happy to do introductions quickly. My name is Maya Rommwatt, and I'm new to the organization, TwinHarbor's RiverKeeper. I've been here just about a month, and Lee here is my predecessor. She's outgoing, retiring after a nice long stretch in the area. Lee, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm thrilled to see your faces, including some familiar ones, especially Terry Small, who the artist who made our logo. I'll post the logo. Thank you, Terry. Yeah, so I've been working in this watershed for about 9 years and as a water keeper for 20 years in some other parts of the state. And there's a lot of challenges here with things like the proposed dam in the headwaters of the Chehalis and contaminated sites and droughts, floods, But I don't want to take up your time. I'm gonna pass it over to Maya. And yeah, I'm just gonna pass it over.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
And of course, we are celebrating Maya, Terry's contribution with with the logo there. Pretty cool.
Ah, yes. So you can see my screen, it sounds like. Do you see just
Yes,
a normal slide? It looks
yes,
good.
we
Nothing
can. Full
funny.
slide. You're looking
Thank
good.
you. Thank you. It's always a challenge on Zoom to get all the little boxes in the right place. Yeah, so sorry, I'm just getting my notes in the right place. So yeah, just thank you again. And it's nice to jump on at the top of your call. I learned some good gardening tips for the area. And we're here today to share what we know about contaminated cleanup sites in Grays Harbor and Pacific counties. And sorry, I'm off my little script, but anyhow, we are here to talk about the state's Model Toxics Control Act, what we call colloquially MOCTA. The act is Washington's environmental cleanup law. So the state has done a pretty good job, unique among states, of implementing this program. Overall, they have found, and this is run by the Department of Ecology, overall, they've found 14,000 cleanup sites in the state. Among those, over close to 8,000, over 7,700 have already been cleaned up and require no further action or require for no further action. Among the total sites, there are about 50 confirmed sites in Pacific County and about 140 sites in the Grays Harbor County. The goal of the cleanup law, MACTA, is to protect people, animals, and plants from breathing, touching, or ingesting contaminants in soil, water, sediment, or air. And what is a contaminated site? It's basically a property where Department of Ecology has confirmed that a release or a threatened release of a dangerous or hazardous substance has occurred or might occur. And the law outlines a series of steps to clean up or address that contamination. And we're not going to get into the weeds today about the details of how these steps work, but we're going to talk about how to kind of engage at the outset, how to find sites, how to see what's going on with those sites, and then I'm going to share some details about several specific sites. So many industrial facilities in this area have operated before or did operate or were beginning operations before the implementation of the Clean Water.
We lost Maya there.
Surface waters. Under the Clean Water Act, it is unlawful to discharge any pollutant from a point source that's like a pipe into navigable waters unless a permit is first obtained. Additionally, the EPA has set water quality standards for all contaminants in surface waters, and it's also set wastewater standards for industry. And the standards describe how much pollution can be allowed after what's called technically all known and reasonable technologies have been applied. So basically, you are allowed to pollute up to a certain point, and provided that you have a permit, is basically how it works in this country at this point, which is better than how it was, but could still use some help. So the sites that ecology has found under the Model Toxics Control Act in Grays Harbor can be seen. You can access a list of sites, or you can access the plethora of sites two different ways. One is via a list, and the other is via a map. So we're going to be looking at the map version, but you can see it either way. So it's called What's in My Neighborhood. If you look up What's in My Neighborhood, Washington State, you should be able to reach this tool, and we'll throw it in the chat when we're done. It's a really handy way to spot sites in the program. Within the city limits of Aberdeen and Hoquiam, there are around 150 cleanup sites, most of which have not been cleaned up or even have had the cleanup process started yet. Most of the sites were listed because of leaking underground storage tanks or leaking heating oil tanks. But many of the sites are at abandoned industrial sites, and in some cases are at industrial areas that are operating with new owners. In some cases, ecology allows the least complicated sites in their program to be cleaned up under what they call a voluntary cleanup process. But all sites, including those cleaned up under voluntary cleanup, are to be cleaned up under MACTA with slightly different processes for the two different types of cleanup. So just because it's in a voluntary, if something's in the voluntary cleanup program, doesn't mean it's going to get out of it. They still have to clean it up. It's just a different avenue of getting there, basically. And then here you can see the sites listed on the What's in My Neighborhood tool around the Willapa watershed. Fewer sites here, less industry. And then this tool is used to assess and rank all the sites within the state. Because there are so many contaminated sites in Washington that are being cleaned up or need to be cleaned up, and they range from really, small spills of gasoline to soil to massive sites with multiple chemical contaminants affecting every part of a site. Because of that, ranking contaminated sites helps the Department of Ecology to direct their work and their resources. Initially, beginning in 1992, the state used the Washington ranking method, or acronym WARM, to rank the sites, but now they've got a new site ranking system called SHARP, or Site Hazard Assessment and Ranking Process. So this tool helps their reviewers, the reviewers from ecology, to calculate scores to identify sites that pose the greatest chemical exposure risks to people and other living things. That way they can prioritize the worst sites and go after those first. SHARP tool assesses indoor air, surface water, groundwater, sediment, and soil. And the tool includes socioeconomic questions about who lives or works near a site, and that can help improve environmental equity. So I want to dig into some specific sites in the areas that you all operate. So JV Auto Wrecking. This is down in the Willapa drainage. An environmental reports tracking system complaint was submitted to Ecology back in 2016. The acronym for that reporting system is ERTS, E-R-T-S. We'll talk about it a little bit at the end, but it's basically the tool where anyone, you or I, can report some kind of violation or a spill, or you see train ties in the river or something. So Ecology went out and they inspected the site, and then they required the facility to gain coverage under the stormwater permit program that was in late 2016. The facility did apply for a permit and gain coverage, but then they did not comply with the terms of the permit. So they did not do any sampling. And then they were notified that they had to reapply for the permit in 2019, and they did not reapply, and then their permit was revoked in 2020. So some of the stuff that Ecology saw, we've got some photos of. The first inspection happened in that 2016 year, and initially at this time, the Ecology staffer was denied access, but from the road, they did see engine parts that had leaked into the soil, auto parts and metal covering the site. At the time they were there, a truck drove up and left scrap metal at the site entrance, and all this material was dumped into a designated wetland. Then in 2017, the following year, an inspector required the owner to immediately remove wrecking materials from the creek and immediately remove petroleum products, chemicals, contaminated soils, and waste drums from the sites. And you can really see from these photos of theirs just how egregious this particular site is. Some violations that have been documented at this site include material potentially containing asbestos that was piled up next to a turbid stream. Petroleum staining was widespread throughout the site. A recent diesel spill was noted north of the creek. Ecology's spill response program collected samples from 14 drums with unknown contents that were buried along the edge of the property. So really, really bad scene. The owner has expressed interest in remediating the site, but does not have the resources to do so. Lee, anything you want to add about that site before I move on to the next one with where it's at?
Yeah, I've been to this site. I've driven up to the end of the road there and looked in, and to me, it looks like nothing has been done. Like I don't think anything has been done. And there's an interesting question. Thank you, Randy. What technologies such as addition of graphite oxide into cement mix? So I have observed and over the years, and this is similar to some of the junkyards that are in Aberdeen. They put these places in wetlands and along streams on purpose years ago when they were allowed to do that because it was the cheapest land. And so a cleanup at a site like this would involve removing all of that stuff and replacing it with clean fill and probably doing a series of groundwater monitoring, like putting in monitoring wells and like long-term water quality sampling. And to my knowledge, nothing has been done. Um, but there are, different ways that the state uses or that the state cleans up these sites. Like a common way is to cap a site with concrete so that rainwater can't continue to infiltrate. But yeah, a site like this is really troubling and expensive to clean up.
So Lee, following up on that, are there penalties? I mean, should there be fines or other legal action?
Well, yes. And I think you guys probably noticed in the Aberdeen Daily World, the owner of Cosmo Specialty Fibers has been fined, but hasn't paid. And these things just take years sometimes to resolve.
Yeah. The system does not move quickly. So we'll segue to the next site on the list, Cosmo Specialty Fibers, which, yes, it gets worse. So, and this is really it's by scale here. So this site is in Cosmopolis and Grays Harbor County, and the main mill portion is located on the south bank of the Chehalis River. Weyerhaeuser constructed it as a pulp mill in 1957, and so the facility, predates environmental laws and regulations. The mill made paper grade products until 1962 when Weyerhaeuser converted production to dissolving and specialty grade pulp. They operated the mill until 2006 when production shut down, and then the company mothballed the facility the next year in preparation to sell it. And then in 2011, it was sold. The mill resumed operation as Cosmo Specialty Fibers. And then in 2022, Cosmo Specialty Fibers shut down its production and transferred ownership to Charlestown Investment. Since then, the mill has remained shut down while the new owner pursues investors to restart operations, is this claim. However, the chemicals that were used for the pulping process remain stored at the site. Moreover, staffing at the site has been significantly reduced or possibly no staff left, for instance, to guard the site. And power and water were shut off in 2024. As of September 2025, there were about 800,000 gallons of chemicals stored on site because the current owner says that he wants to use them during a future startup, so he doesn't want to get rid of them. But in a recent development, as Lee alluded to, we've learned that the EPA is now taking really kind of surprisingly proactive action to force the owner to remove many of the chemicals because they've documented a lot of ongoing leaks at the site. Did someone have a question to jump in? I think it was
just other than note that Lee put the link to a Seattle Times article.
There you go. Thank you, Lee. And I can't see the chat right now, but yeah, so that article is about what happened over the weekend with the EPA stepping in to force some cleanup. So I'm going to talk a little about some of the how this place operates and some of the violations we know about. So Cosmo Specialty Fibers uses water treatment lagoons for its waste, and these are not on site. They're several miles away. Black liquor is the byproduct from what's called the craft process when digesting pulpwood into paper pulp. And early craft pulp mills discharged black liquor just directly to watercourses, despite it being quite toxic to aquatic life. So some documented chemical releases from the Cosmos site from 1979 to the present include liquid chlorine leak, the release of magnesium oxide dust, a spill of about 1,000 gallons of red liquor to the stormwater system. Red liquor is a mixture of spent pulping chemicals and organics that are specific to the sulfite pulping process. A spill of sodium hydroxide to the groundwater, a spill of acidified water to the wastewater ponds that you're seeing in this picture, about 16 leaks in the wastewater pipe over the last 10 years. So some of that is in a residential neighborhood, and a sediment study found elevated levels of dioxin and furans in the vicinity of the mill's outfalls. Going back for a second, sorry, that I meant to say so the transmission from the mill site to these wastewater ponds, like I said, is several miles, I think 2.5 miles. Old wood stave conveyance, and it runs basically under the town of Cosmopolis. And so there's known leaking in that system, but it's of course hard to even reach. So ecology, not EPA, but the Department of Ecology in the state now has Cosmo Specialty Fibers under an agreed order to conduct investigation and cleanup of hazardous substances at this site. And ecology is also requiring Cosmo to undertake an interim action in order to secure and stabilize the site to prevent further contamination from chemical leaks. However, as Lee started to talk about, the owner right now of this site is just pretty loath to do anything. And even when fines are levied at them at the investment company, they're not paying them. So they're doing the least amount they can possibly do on this site. Lee, anything you else want to say about this site before I move to the next one?
Yeah, so if you guys read the Seattle Times article, the reporter Conrad Swanson says in the article that EPA is forcing the owner to do the interim action, which involves removing a bunch of the chemicals that are in tanks. Many of them are leaking. And if he doesn't rise to do that work, then EPA and ecology will do the work. So, it's kind of a drastic situation there especially because it's right next to the river. The Quinault Indian Nation has treaty rights to fish in that area. It's it's a disaster waiting to happen, and hopefully something will happen soon. And I know that the city of Aberdeen has been approached by the EPA to try to, see if they can take some of the chemicals at their wastewater treatment plant. Some of them might be able to be treated at the wastewater treatment plant, but that's an unknown. And so, this is I call it an emergency.
And Lee, I'm finding online that black liquor, is akin to the white liquor used in the pulp
Yes,
process and can be explosive. So
yes,
just like the tragic accident we had and
right,
in Longview, right, the
yes,
same thing could be happening.
right. And so this is why, the EPA is forcing his hand.
Yeah.
And as part of our public participation grant that we have with Department of Ecology, we're in the process of organizing a public meeting about this so that the public can attend and get their questions answered.
Yeah.
And I put a link in the chat to Maya's email address. And so if you'd like to be invited to that meeting, or, I'm sure we'll issue a press release about it, but if you'd like to be on our e-news and stay up to date on some of these things, let Maya know. Because I'm retiring.
Yeah.
And of
And
course, Maya and Lee, is that you can see Terry's question is just profound there. Is that how does the Cosmo, how does that black liquor impact water quality for the full of Grays Harbor County?
Yes.
yeah, a lot of unknowns with this site. The meeting that we're going to put together, we're going to have the site manager from ecology, who they're the manager of this particular site. She's going to talk, and we'll have a few panelists. Should be pretty informative, but it won't be until probably October. So yeah, I can definitely share the announcement with this group when we have it. Couple other sites I want to talk about real quick, and please, Kelly, just give me a nudge if we're going over time here. The former Grays Harbor Paper Company was a dissolving sulfite pulp mill area that produced pulp from the 1920s to 1992, after which point it was demolished. The former pulp and paper mill areas are near the Hoquiam River and Grays Harbor. Investigations have detected contaminants in soil or groundwater in this site, including petroleum hydrocarbons from diesel, gasoline, and oil, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, polychlorinated biphenyls, metals including lead, chromium, and mercury, benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, and xylene, and volatile organic compounds. So a lot of really, really toxic chemicals at the site. And then the Pakanen Boatyard number 2803 is a former boat building and maintenance yard on the Chehalis River in Aberdeen. The property was used as a boatyard since the 1890s, when Grays Harbor was a center for shipbuilding. The sediments in the vicinity of the marine railways that were used to haul the boats out of the water contain levels of chemicals above the sediment cleanup objective in the state's sediment management standards. There are also indications of some chemicals above the MOCTA standards on the site uplands. Interim actions to remove some of the contaminated sediments and uplands occurred in 2016 under an integrated planning grant that was awarded to the Grays Harbor Historical Seaport Authority. The site did operate as a boatyard until 2005, and the boatyard is in disrepair. It's no longer functional. Several environmental investigations have been conducted at the site and have confirmed that copper, mercury, nickel, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, organotins, polychlorinated biphenyls, so similar to the last site, are present in sediments. And the site is used or is slated by that Historical Seaport Authority for major redevelopment that will combine a mixed use working waterfront. So it's, but currently nothing's happening on this site. So this is another one that we like to watch. I think I have another slide about this one. Yeah. So it's just sort of repeating what I just said, but you can see it from the aerial there. And then, so I'm going to go back. That's the last of our specific sites, and just kind of scaling back out to the whole Model Toxics Control Act engagement with the way the public can engage with the program. We were looking at that map, right? If you're looking at the map or the list of sites, then you click on a specific site, so you can look. Okay, Cosmos Specialty Fibers, you can see all the history there, what's going on with it, all the reports that have happened. And super handy is you can subscribe to the site so that when something new happens, you will get an email about it. And you can keep up to date. I also mentioned the reporting system called ERTS. So if you see something that looks like pollution to you, we recommend that you call it in, or excuse me, there's an online form. But this they want to know, there's a few things to be prepared with. Is you want to know, like, what is the problem, where is the problem, what kind of material is involved, how much is there, if you know who's responsible for the material. They let you submit one photo, so you want it to be a good one. However, you can also email them after you submit one of these with further photos. And then we have kind of similar recommendations for ourselves. So, a photo, a location, the name of the waterway, and what you see, basically a little bit more simplified. This phone number is ours. And if you go to our website, there's probably still an older phone number there because Lee and I are overlapping. I've put my phone number in here, but so this is your, if you see something and you, for whatever reason, don't want to submit an ERTS to the state or unable to, or you want me to do it for you, no problem. Just give me a call and have this information at the ready. You can also submit an ERTS and still call me. That's also totally fine. And yeah, just keep in touch. Like I said, I will share with Kelly the information we have about upcoming events, especially that one panel talk about Cosmo specialty fibers. My email is there. You can go to our website and sign up for our e-news. Anything else, Lee, that I'm missing before or that you want to add?
Yeah, thank you so much, Maya. One thing that I want to add is if any of you have properties that flood, or know people that garden in areas that flood, I would be very, very careful, because of all these contaminated sites. The last thing you guys want is water that's been over a contaminated site in your garden. So just, be aware of that. And I worked at a contaminated site in Ruston, on the near Tacoma, where all the properties were contaminated with arsenic from the smelter, and they had to go in there and remove contaminated soil from like a square mile of the city of Tacoma, which took a long time and was very expensive. So that's just my little word of warning.
Well, and Lee and Maya, this is especially significant to those of us who live here in the peninsula in Pacific County, in which we depend upon groundwater for everything, right? There's no fresh water that flows into the peninsula. So everything that gets into the soil becomes part of our aquifer.
Yeah.
And indeed, going to that "What's in My Neighborhood" site that I put in the chat, you find a long list of cleanup sites. By the way, including the WSU Long Beach Research and Extension Unit in Long Beach.
Yeah,
That is,
but if you click on that, you'll see that the cleanup is complete.
Cleanup is well, it says cleanup started there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there
And
you go.
it's a good reminder, these sites aren't always abandoned in perpetuity. There's often something new on the site.
Questions, comments from Maya and Lee. This is fascinating stuff, and obviously it's something that we all can personally become engaged in. And as we talked about, Maya, relative to the Cosmo site, right? It's a safety hazard, right? In addition to just a disaster of water pollution waiting to happen. Randy, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I had posted a question on the chat. I want to know what the Department of Ecology is doing to what proactive steps to reduce or prevent chemical spills during a tsunami. I talked to the Department of Ecology years ago. 68% of the underground fuel storage tanks are in the tsunami zone. The vent pipes are not protected from damage, and if they get damaged in a tsunami flow, water goes down into the tanks, displaces the fuel. Fuel comes out of the tanks, but it also contaminates all the fuel in these tanks. When I talked to ecology, they said because it only affects 2 counties, Grays Harbor and Pacific County, it wasn't a big concern for them, which I found rather short-sighted. I'm wondering whether it will ever become an issue with Department of Ecology to prevent the fuel from being contaminated and from discharging into a tsunami flow, since that's 68% of our fuel.
Yeah, that's a great flag. I think the more people like you bring that concern up, the more we talk about it, the more likely we can get it. You've gotten it on their radar, but they're perhaps brushing you off a little. But the more of us that speak up, the harder it is for them to brush it off, and the more they have to address it. So I'm glad that you brought that up. So it's on my radar as well.
Kelly, invite those ecology folks to give a presentation at an upcoming meeting.
That's
So you can
excellent. That's excellent.
pepper them with questions.
Mm-hmm.
And in particular, that's a very good concern, by the way, because it goes back even to the Cosmo thing, the Cosmo issue, right? Because a tsunami risk, right, immediately exposes all of that, all that chemical pollution.
Yeah. And relatedly, an earthquake that could trigger
Sure.
said tsunami, also can wreak a lot of havoc.
Questions, comments from Maya and Lee. Make sure that you're signing up for their to be on that email list here.
I see Valerie. And then Terry.
I have a question. I'm going back to Grays Harbor, the water body of Grays Harbor. Is the water quality tested frequently? And how far up the harbor? I mean, I see a lot of sports fishermen who fish right off of the historic seaport. And really, how safe is that?
Lee, I'm going to kick that to you.
Oh, is that a loaded question?
Terry, I
I'm
wondered
just
the same thing. I know the Department of Health does a lot of sampling related to shellfish harvesting. And I can, when I'm done talking, I'll put a link to the Department of Health shellfish harvesting. You can also subscribe to that because they do a bunch of water quality testing to make sure that the shellfish harvesting areas are safe. And I have often wondered about fish consumption advisories in the harbor. To my knowledge, there are none. Whereas, the Duwamish River has prohibitions, and most of Puget Sound has prohibitions on, like, you're not supposed to eat more than 2 servings of salmon from Puget Sound per month, or it might be week. But that's an excellent question, and I'll put a link to the Department of Health shellfish safety program. And a good portion of the eastern part of Grays Harbor is off limits to shellfish harvesting because of the discharges from the wastewater treatment plant.
Valerie, I see your hand.
Oh, thank you, Maya. Speaking of aquifers and local streams, as far as I know, I'm the only WSU Extension trained rain garden person in Grays Harbor County. And I am of the belief that one house at a time, and I'm probably the only one that has a big rain garden, which has been acknowledged by master gardeners. And I have a group of master gardeners. It's been every year now since I put it together. But my concern is, is there any hope? I mean, it looks like your plate is totally full doing this major stuff. Is there any hope in the future that we could get a decree from the county or Department of Ecology, like King County and Kitsap County, where I was trained in Kitsap County, require rain gardens for new construction around waterways? Is there anything I'm sure it's really low on the totem pole in Grace Harbor County, but I would really like uh, something to happen on a local environmental level that we can get more acknowledgement for rain gardens at homes, and even businesses are starting to do them, I guess.
I love that. I think you should email me and pester me about that. And there is a lot on my plate, but as I get up to speed, I am interested in nature-based solutions, and I love that. So
I will do that. Thank you.
thank you. Yeah.
Other questions, comments from Maya and Lee? This is important stuff.
I'm also taken by the fact that that Cosmos factory is that affecting killing what's ever in Willapa Bay that keeps attracting all these green crabs? That Travis, one of our former master gardeners, is making compost out of, which is very cool. But I don't think it's ever possible to get rid of those green crabs.
The Cosmos site is on the Chehalis. So
Oh, that's
up in
right.
Grace Harbor, but
Yeah.
I'm yeah.
Different watershed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, Maya and Lee, this is very important stuff, and I thank you, most sincerely, right, for sharing this morning. This is, as we've noted, as you obviously can imagine, as master gardeners, water quality is a big thing, right? You know, and access to water and access to clean water is an imperative for us all. And again, just going through the experience of the Longview tragedy that we just experienced last month, right? You know, this can concern all of us, not just from some what if situation, but what really could result from earthquakes, tsunami, or just material failure of these tanks. So obviously, it's an encouragement for us all to get involved and to stay engaged.
Indeed. Yes, please stay in touch. Thank you so much for having us. Really, really great to meet you all.
Other questions, comments?
Yeah, if I could add one thing on the chat, I did some research and found out where they did the water testing and the sediment testing in Grace Harbor, and I just posted that on the chat.
Thank you, Randy.
So everyone capture these email addresses. Midge, you have your hand up.
Yeah, well, this is on another subject. But thanks,
Please
Randy,
go
for
ahead.
all that for all that information. That's really quite comprehensive. I just wanted to remind people to come out to the demo garden in Elma and help clean up for the fair. Speaking on behalf of Cindy.
And again, check out the e-news for all of that. And lots going on.
Oh yeah.
Well, Terry, again, your logo came into good use here. But this is an important use of your logo crafting skills here. Okay. Anything else for the good of the order here? Okay, with that, we will see many of you at the garden tour this Saturday. So be safe, be prepared, and let's go have a great tour. Okay. Thanks all.